You have to take aligned action, but the place from which you are taking that action is in such deep resonance with who you are that it feels so good that it's not work. It's not work because it's aligned and it's powerful and it's real and it's raw and it's beautiful. Hey friends, my name is Gabby Rosalie, and this is the Crucial Conversations podcast, a platform dedicated to self-fulfillment and breaking the cycle of wasted potential. Using the tools of perspective, knowledge, wisdom, and awareness, I, with the help of qualified expert guests, share free insight and proven strategies that lead to all forms of success. If you are ready to start investing in yourself and living the life of your dreams, because I promise it is possible for all of us, you came to the right place. Together, we will help each other level up and have the crucial conversations necessary to do so. I think that over time, I have come to the understanding that two of the greatest things that I have the ability to do in my life is influence people and create fun, like fun experiences. And so I feel that my purpose in this life, all of my experiences that have led me to this understanding of what I feel like I'm meant here to do, is to positively impact other people's lives, and do that by being and leading an example. So I was an athlete growing up. I've been on teams. I had an interesting childhood growing up with my parents, and I was constantly feeling like the mediator and the person who was trying to bring peace and kind of mend over certain issues and problems for other people that allowed me to develop this awareness of what it means to empathize with others, but also mediate and influence other people positively. So I think that my childhood had an impact, as well as my experiences in school and athletics and social experiences as well. I moved when I was young, and when I came into my new life as a part of, a new school and new social environment, I had to kind of refine myself at a young age, and I was kind of the odd man out for a little bit. And so I think I developed a very strong sense of self-awareness early on in my life, as well as an ability to communicate amongst a lot of different types of personalities. And so I think that integration of all of that has allowed me to reach a lot of people in what I do now. And it's what I'm really passionate about. I love hearing about people's stories, building relationships, and then helping them to see things with a new, fresh set of eyes to build and empower them. I think it's a process to come to an understanding that your skill set is something that you were born with and you're not meant to pigeonhole. Although you can bring your passion with you wherever you go, I think that it's a much more fulfilling endeavor when you are identifying that passion and then building from that point, rather than trying to add it as like a tag along. And I resonate as well, because I feel like I didn't even consider this to be a profession or an avenue that I could take with my career, or my life rather, when I was growing up. And it was the same thing. It was lawyer, doctor, like all the big honcho type of roles, and how I was going to be successful and make a lot of money. And I had a lot of influence from my dad as I grew up going through high school, and he's a very successful man, and I look up to him a lot. But my view was kind of tunnel vision. And so I think that we are kind of coming into a new age of people coming back to themselves early on, so that they can build from their hearts and can really blaze their own path based on what they're passionate and purposeful about. So I think that the idea of fulfillment, we have to kind of break that down and ask ourselves, what does to be fulfilled really mean? And to me, that means that you are content, you are satisfied with your overall quality of life. And I believe that to take that a little step further, you are also exercising your potential. Like, you are actively pursuing what you know inherently you are capable of. So there's like, okay, you're feeling content, you're feeling good about how things are going, but you're also actively pursuing yourself and your potential. And so I think that this idea of lack of fulfillment directly correlates to people being disconnected from themselves and from their hearts and from what they value. And so I believe that this feeling of discontentment and feeling like you're lacking purpose, you're lacking passion, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something that I have not felt. I have felt that. I'm sure that you have gone through periods of time where you felt unfulfilled. And I think that it is very important to know what it feels like to be unfulfilled, because what that is it's actually guidance to help you redirect back to what you value, what your heart is calling for, what is really aligned with your spirit, your soul, and your purpose. And so when you are feeling these feelings of lack of passion and purpose, what I believe that is a signal in your brain that like your focus is not aligned with what your heart is calling for. And so to me, that qualifies us for a lot of introspection and asking ourselves, like, what is it that we truly value, and what are the areas of my life that I am not aligned with what I value and what my priorities are. And so what I have done through my feelings of unfulfillment in the past is really, really take inventory of my life as to what is not aligned. And for the things that I cannot control, like I was in a corporate job for a long time, and throughout the 2 years that I was there, I started to become more and more aware of how certain aspects of that environment were just not aligned with me, and I felt unfulfilled because I was not exercising my purpose and I wasn't aligned with my values. It caused me to really take inventory of what it was that I could control and the energy that I was bringing into that situation, but also to take that initiative and that action to change the things that I could control. Like if my decisions or my actions or the conversations that I was having, the attitude that I was bringing into those conversations wasn't aligned with my values. For example, one of my values is honesty. And if I was having a conversation in corporate where I felt like I was masking myself or hiding parts of me because I had to, integrate with these corporate people, I was not being true to myself. And so once I started to come back to who I was and how I wanted to show up, what I valued, I started to feel more fulfilled in my life. And then I feel like it's that Rumi quote is like, once you're on the path appears. And it's like my favorite quote ever because I resonate so much. And it's so true. It's happened so many times in my life and I'm still learning this. I always like to break life up into, have you ever heard of the wheel of life? It's oftentimes used in coaching. Okay. So I break things up based on category of life because it's really overwhelming when we look at things like, are you satisfied with your life? Are you fulfilled? Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, in some things I'm really happy with like my relationships right now, but I'm not really happy about like my physical body or maybe like, I don't know, my spiritual body, whatever. And so I feel like it's really important, first of all, to break down the categories and get granular as to what it is you feel is not aligned right now. And so if it is your career, like if it is something that you are sustaining yourself with in terms of financial income, stability, and things like that, okay, what components to that do you feel are unaligned with you? So really what I do with my clients is like, I ask a lot of questions because I think it's really, really important to facilitate deep understanding, not only of the client and myself, but also the client and themselves. So I think that asking the questions is really, really important. And then from there, you kind of break it into, okay, what you can control and what you cannot control. And the number one thing that you can always control is your perspective and the faucet that is turned on in your bucket. So like if you have a bucket full of dirty water, if you turn the faucet on and you leave the faucet on, it's eventually going to clear up. It's going to take time and it's going to take effort. You can't turn the faucet off prematurely because it's going to be muddy if you don't, continue to run the water. So like we have this control of what we feed ourselves. And so oftentimes when we are not masters of our mind and we allow our mind to run the show, we get into these negative thought patterns that are so self-deprecating and they're defeating and they're depressing. And so even though we cannot control things and we're not going to always enjoy everything that's going on in our lives, we can control the attitude that we're bringing to the table. We can control the way that we debrief situations. We can control the things that we do after said circumstance. And so I think it's really about identifying the areas of your life that you're not satisfied with, and then identifying what you can control, what you cannot control, and then coming to terms with the fact that like, hey, not everything is supposed to be rainbows and unicorns, because if you want to be the main character, you have to write the plot, and you can't do that without having like no drama. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think perspective is huge. And the last thing that I will say is, when you hear about these kinds of things, that's like rewire your brain and like think better or like be more positive. And, that's defeating in itself. Like that is not the point of this. It's not like, okay, you talk yourself out of all of the shit shows that are going on in your life. But what it really means is that like you're taking control and you're not choosing to play the victim all of the time. Sometimes you're going through things that are literally going to beat you up, roll you over in the mud, and like attach feathers to you so that everybody can see that you're going through a shit show right now. And that is the way of life sometimes, but it does not have to be your attitude. That is the moral of the story. And so when we can hack the attitude, hack the mindset, and create it to be self-serving and aligned, then you start to attract more opportunities to balance out the things that might be not going so well in your life. I was driving here and it's so funny. I had this thought, and I've thought this many, many times in my life ever since I was a child. But like, especially when I'm in a car, I think about all of the different realities that people are experiencing. And we're all in this like enclosed space of our vehicle, but there's so many things that are different. There's like the view, there's the destination, there's the sound, there's like okay, what vibe is going on right now? Are you communicating? Are you having a conversation? Are you listening to sad music? Are you listening to happy music? We are not experiencing the same reality. And even if we are driving to the same place, the vehicle that we're driving is likely different. The song that we're listening to is likely different. The attitude is likely different. And so it's so apparent to me whenever I'm in a car that we're all experiencing this reality differently. So yeah, I think perspective is huge. Yeah. Well, I think it's very important to understand and identify the fact that we have been conditioned to seek approval from other people. You just talked about this primal instinct for to be accepted socially and in social environments. And so, in the old days, if you weren't accepted into the tribe and you were left alone, like you're food for the wolves, so you're kind of screwed. Like we have this inherent need for ourselves to be accepted by other people. So there's a lot of conditioning that goes into that. There's primal, there's emotional, and then it's important sometimes, we got to look back at our lives and like what happened in our childhood and how we grew up and, the things that we inherited from our parents and the way that we were raised and our teachers and our environments. And so it's like, you would not beat up on a flower for not growing if there were like weeds literally choking it down and eliminating its possibility to thrive. You wouldn't be like, yeah, this flower is dumb as hell. Like, no, you wouldn't. And so I think it's really important to recognize how you grew up and the things that have been conditioning you since you literally took your first breath. And then I think that it's important also to ask yourself, like, when did you stop valuing how you thought about yourself? Like, when did you stop viewing how you viewed yourself less than how other people viewed you? Like, what are the experiences that really, really played into this? And it's kind of like you're saving yourself in those moments, right? Like when you're a kid and maybe you got made fun of in school and you thought you were like the coolest person ever and your outfit was awesome, but then everybody's making fun of you. You're like saving yourself from this embarrassment and this shame. And so you're going to start dressing like everybody else because you feel like that's what you have to do to deny these emotions. And so like detaching yourself from that emotion is kind of saving yourself from experiencing it. And as we grow up, we recognize that emotions are actually guiding us to what we need to heal in order to step into our full potential. So you have to ask yourself when that happened. When did you start taking yourself out of the equation and your own approval? And then I think it's practice. Like you can hear all of these things and still seek approval from other people. It takes practice. And it's all about coming back to the driver's seat and being in control of the thoughts that you feed yourself. Like, if you are connected with your values and you know that you are acting in alignment with those values, who gives a shit what anybody else thinks? I was listening to some guy give a speech and he called out somebody in the audience who did not have blue hair. They had brown hair. And he was like, what would you say if somebody said, your blue hair is so ugly? Like, I hate that blue hair. You know what I mean? And the guy was like, what are you talking about? I literally don't have blue hair. And he's like, yeah, exactly. So you probably let it roll off the back of your shoulder because you know that you don't have blue hair. So who cares? Who cares? It's like the other person's delusional. So you have to be so connected to your values and give yourself the permission slip to show up authentically. And then it just kind of trickles down and you become a permission slip for other people. So if you can't do it for yourself, if you're not motivated to be a permission slip for you, take that a step further and be a permission slip for other people, because we need more authenticity. We need more people who are embodied in their unique strengths and qualities and talents and personality traits and quirks. We need more of that because it's what makes life vivacious and fun and exciting. And so if you can be that for yourself and for other people, it's like a domino effect. And it's really, really powerful. And it makes you feel good and it makes other people feel good as well. So here's the other thing that I will say about your perspective on a situation. I was working with a client. She is one of my favorite women that I've ever met. I was living in Costa Rica. She was a volunteer with me at this volunteer exchange that I was participating in. And I was sitting down with her and we were working through some of her like limiting beliefs, because you can't show up in your business if you don't know how to show up for yourself. You know that. I know that. So we're working through some of these limiting beliefs. And one of them that became very apparent was that she had a fear of being seen. And she gave me this example of she had gone into town to replace the chip in her phone and her feet were dirty. Okay. They were super dirty. She was wearing sandals. We had been working on a farm. So yeah, our feet are dirty. Okay. And she was so embarrassed. She was like, people are going to think I'm decrepit and homeless and they're looking at my feet like she's disgusting. And oh my God, I was so embarrassed. And I was like, it's so interesting, not crazy. It's interesting because I love being barefoot. Ever since I've been a kid, I love being barefoot. And I feel like my feet being dirty, being like roughed up is actually a staple to like my adventurous and exploratory personality. So when I have dirty feet and you can see that like I've been through it or I've been doing some cool shit, I feel so good about myself. And in my mind, the narrative that I am rehearsing is like, people probably see my feet and think, damn, what's she doing? She's cool as hell, you know? And so it's so interesting how the same scenario can evoke different feelings, different narratives in our minds. And obviously they're fueled by our experiences, but they're also fueled by what we reinforce, you know, in our beliefs. So personally for me, the most guilt that I feel is this idea that I'm doing one thing, but I should be doing another. And oftentimes I fall into this guilt trap when I am not being productive. That is something that I have struggled with severely in my journey, is hyper productivity and attaching my worth and my value to my achievements and my accomplishments. And so whether I am choosing to relax or I am choosing to do something that isn't like, I don't know, sustaining me financially or contributing to my business, I'm like, I should be using my time wisely and I should be focusing on my business and I should be doing this and I need to be doing this. And so that's the guilt that I feel. It's like guilt for not pursuing things that are correlating to my worth, which I have for so long, and I'm finally breaking out of, I have related to my achievements and accomplishments. And so essentially what this guilt trap is feeling like you should be doing, it's this idea of should be doing something, should not be doing something than what you are doing in any given moment. And so it's this feeling that has been, again, a result of a lot of conditioning and your experiences and your self-corroborating beliefs that like what the current moment is for you right now needs to be something other than exactly what it is. So it's a lack of acceptance for what is, but it's also a lack of acceptance of self and how you're showing up. And so I believe that what this guilt trap it has two routes. There is a healthy route that is like, okay, you are clearly making decisions that are not aligned with what you say you value. And so there's this like internal alarm going off that like you're not acting in accordance with what you say you value. So either you're lying to yourself or you're making decisions that are actually self-sabotaging you. Okay. So there's good guilt. And I don't even want to call it guilt because that's like a low vibrational emotion. It's actually more like radical self-awareness and being real with yourself. But then there is the shame that you feel when you don't accept yourself or the present moment as exactly what it is. And so when you fall into this idea of things need to be different than they are right now, you have to be the person that issues yourself a permission slip. And so for me, what helps is like allotting time or allotting, I don't know, maybe it's a day or maybe it's a weekend to be focused on one thing, whether it's relaxation, whether it's my business, whatever it is. And I give myself windows, because when I can put like a deadline or a timestamp on something, this is just the way that my brain processes and operates. If I can condense what I'm doing into a window, into a container, then I know that this container is free for me to take up its space. When I have this like free flowing, I just feel like I am, in a lazy river. Sometimes that's awesome. And it's like, oh, life, like, just flow with it. And I think that that's awesome. For me, I don't necessarily operate very well. And I feel like I actually get more in my head when I'm like this versus when I'm like in a container and then I can be like this, So yeah, I think it's about giving yourself that container if you need to, and then being very intentional about if these thoughts are coming into my mind, listen, I have 24 hours, and after 24 hours, I can identify these thoughts and get to the root of them. But for right now, this is my focus. And you have to condition yourself to reaffirm, to reprogram constantly. It's a process over and over and over and over. And you have to be the person who's constantly on the front lines, because your mind will run the race for you if you do not tell it where it's going. Like this idea of, okay, well, how do I stop these negative thoughts? Because I get a lot of feedback from my clients, and even though we'll walk through things and give tools and things like that, it helps me and the people that I work with for like, okay, what can you do in that moment when you are just feeling bombarded by all of this negativity, all of this guilt, all of this shame? And for me, it's like, okay, take yourself out of your head and get yourself into your body, like into your heart. So you can hum. I just found this the other day. When you hum, your mind is actually incapable of generating new thoughts. So when you hum, it's this like internal reverberating sound that it's like you're expressing like your own frequency in a way, is what humming is, because your internal self is vibrating. It's really interesting. And your mind can't formulate thoughts. And I was doing it the other day when I was like kind of feeling a little low, and I was just humming for like 5 minutes straight, and it was so nice. And so you can hum, you can breathe. Regulating your nervous system is huge. I know you're all up into that. You can move your body, like get up and jump around, because this stagnant, stuck energy is going to stay stuck until you free it up. So I like to get into my body using my voice. I like to call a friend, have a conversation, brain dump, journal it out, whatever you got to do to get yourself out from here and into here or into heart. Do what you got to do and find what works. But there are a lot of methods that you can use in any given moment to get you out of that kind of guilt, shame type trap. And you can hum inside your head. You don't even have to do it out loud. Like I was reading this, thread or whatever. It was like, yeah, you can hum inside your head. If you're in public and you don't want to do it out loud, you can do it inside your head. I don't know, but yeah. When we're creating from a place, when we're producing from a place that is not in alignment with ourselves, that is disconnected from our strengths and what we have to offer the world, we are not producing masterwork. And so when I work with entrepreneurs and I work with people who are trying to build a personal or professional brand, it is just as much of an approach to reconnect with oneself as it is when I work with someone who's like seeking me out for transitionary or life type coaching. Because in a business, what you are giving other people, whether it is a service or a product, it is spawned from your creativity, which is a direct conduit of your spirit, like your passion, your purpose, your heart. And so when you are aligned with your passion and your purpose and your heart, you are creating from a place of abundance. You are creating from a place of passion that is going to reach people on a soul level, because it's soul to soul. And when you are trying to make an impact, I don't work with business owners who are interested in like building a monopoly and just, they just want to make a shit ton of money. Like, that's not really what I am about. As much as I love money, I'll be the first person to say it, but I am not in this for the money. And so I don't necessarily work with people who are operating that way. What I like to do is make sure that people are centered around making an impact and providing people with things that they wish that they had, and they're drawing on their own experiences. And so that requires an ability to tell your own story and a connection to yourself. And you can't make money from a place of disconnect and lack if you are expecting to, have this profound impact on other people. They're just not going to buy into it, because you can read energy. You can read a lack of authenticity. You can read when people don't believe in the message that they are sharing. And so how do you get other people to believe? You have to believe. What does that require? Radical acceptance, appreciation, and resonance with yourself. It's always going to be a work in progress. And I think that is my biggest struggle, is releasing the fear that I have associated with finances, with supporting myself through my business, not taking a normal quote unquote route. And so there is still a lot of fear that I believe I am working through and processing. And I will be the first one to say it, because it's like the second that you feel like you released and reprogrammed a fear, you're uncovering another one. And really what that is, though, it's a staircase to accessing this degree of authenticity and fulfillment that you cannot if you do not confront the shadow, if you don't confront the things that are holding you back. And here's the thing about the nature of who we are. Like, I believe that we are divine little pieces of the universe, little pieces of God. And so when you think about our creator, when you think about nature, and you recognize this ability for systems to support themselves without exerting effort, like trees growing and plants taking care of themselves and one another. And you look at mushrooms. I know you're all up in that like mushroom gang, okay? Like, freaking beautiful creatures and support systems, and they are not worried about how they are going to grow. They just do. It's the nature of life. It is the nature of us. We did not have to read a textbook on how to breathe. We came into this world knowing how to do that. And so we actually, hard to believe because of what we've been told since we've also taken that first breath, is that we have the ability to be abundant creatures. We have the ability to grow and to expand and to experience without a shit show happening every 5 seconds. And so we have to learn from the things going on around us and recognize this nature of abundance that is inherent within us. There are things that have been placed on us that may be quote unquote keeping that abundance at a distance, but it wants to get to you. And so that's why uncovering these fears is so powerful, because as you shed them, the abundance is one step closer. And you have to take action. You have to take aligned action. But the place from which you are taking that action is in such deep resonance with who you are that it feels so good that it's not work. It's not work, because it's aligned and it's powerful and it's real and it's raw and it's beautiful. I just saw a video about this concept of like, is it woo-woo or is it gentrified cultural practices and rituals derived from indigenous tribes and cultures? Because really, like, okay, let's be real. We didn't create this mode of thinking. We didn't create this way of living. Like, this has been around for a lot longer than Western civilization and colonialism. And so, this idea of woo-woo, which essentially just means like hyper spiritual. It's like those, the girls who constantly have like their sage and they're cleansing everybody before they can have a conversation with them. Like, that's the idea of woo-woo. That's what I think of when that term comes about. But really what it is these are these practices from these tribes and from these cultures that, exactly like you said, recognize that self-actualization is everybody's birthright. And so it's like, it's not a process of actualizing self. It's actually just remembering that self is already actualized and we just have to release everything else that is not. And we are not the ones who created these practices. These are philosophies and practices that have been integrated across time because of these wise tribes and people who were really, really in touch with the universe and what it means to live life connected to self and to other. Yeah, I'm an Instagram and a podcast girl. So connect with me on Instagram at Gabby Rosalie Co. My podcast is Crucial Conversations, and it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, all the major platforms. And like I said, I am into one-on-one coaching. So reach out to me, book a free consultation call if you are interested. And I also do seminars. I do workshops. So if you are interested in any of those things, reach out to me, connect. My email's in my bio as well. So I look forward to hearing from all of you beautiful people. Hey y'all, before you head out, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode, and most importantly, thank you for making the conscious decision to invest in yourself and expand your mind. By doing so, you are helping to elevate us all to live better lives. By showing up and emulating the things that you learned in today's crucial conversation, you are inspiring those around you. If you want to continue this domino effect, share this episode with someone that you want to help to unlock their maximum potential. And connect with me on Instagram at Gabby Rosalie Co. to share your valuable feedback and offer recommendations for what you'd like to hear in future episodes. I love you all. Keep shining your unique lights, and I will see you next time on the Crucial Conversations podcast.